afternoon.
Order at this time, please. So, is everybody really happy to walk outside this morning? Oh my gosh, it's a perfect day. I want the rest of summer to be exactly like that. Can someone arrange that for you? We'll start, Councilwoman, you have reports?
Mayor, I attended the GCISD 2014 Academic Recognition Banquet celebrating the top 20 of each of the two high schools and Teachers of the Year and representing the city.
Thank you.
Mayor, I will mention, I mentioned it last time, but I'll mention it again tonight. The outdoor aquatics Saturday, it was packed, and that's a unique type of offering what the rest of the summer's going to look like on Saturday. If you're going to go there, you better get there early. It was packed all day long. Staff did a great job, Ray.
And I think it's going to be that way most of the summer, not just Saturdays. Anybody else? Any reports and comments, council? Ms. Kim, you have a report? Mr. Olson, anything?
Nothing.
Ms. Rickey?
Couple things that come up today that I want to let y'all know about, and these are just incidents that occurred. One of them is we got a library air conditioning incident.
We've got 2 compressors down at our library. There's 5 in that building in our chiller system. We've got 2 of them down right now. We're actually moving them along until we get some new ones in case they have to be built. It takes about 7 to 10 days to have those built. And once we get those here, we'll schedule to get those installed. It will mean that they will be without air conditioning for about a 24-hour period. We're going to try to accomplish that on a Saturday evening and work through Sunday to get that completed, but it will require that we shut the system down to do that. So the good thing about it is, since we have that under maintenance contract, it will not cost us anything except for the free.
Except for what?
Except for the free. That's all it costs us.
Free.
Won't cost anything but the free. So.
Our final schedule is mowing.
Sent an email this morning even.
I'm not sure what it's going to take to get that stopped, but
The email said be here at 4. Very good.
you already can't hear. That is free on. Okay, and then Mr. Craner, you got a water main break.
I do 1812 Marlene. We have a small, not very heavy leak, but it's right under a pine tree. The pine tree is no longer with us. We have to take it out. The roots are wrapped around the water line and also the gas line that's right next to the tree. So because of the slow leak, we're going to finish it up tomorrow. We didn't need to do it on overtime tonight, but everybody has water on the street.
Just bring that to your attention because it's going to impact residents and tree in the right of way. Most residents believe it's their tree and we need to protect trees, but when we have trees wrapped around. Utilities, there's nothing you can do down there. They gotta go. That's, you already heard?
Oh, yeah.
Have you? That's okay. That's that. So other than that, we're ready to start.
Is that your old house, Barry? Should we be able to bring it back to that?
It's 2 houses, 3 houses there.
Oh, I bet you heard.
Oh, yeah. It's all good.
Probably before I heard.
Probably.
Hell, I bet you do Bob before I did. You're so efficient.
I don't know.
No bites.
Okay. I think Adam, we're going to switch and go to the Trinity River Authority project update. And Hal, let's introduce that.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bill Smith is here from TRA to actually give us an update on projects that are in and around Euless. We have tonight on the agenda two easements that we're asking you to grant. But Bill's going to give us a update. Bill?
Thank
all
you very
yours.
much. Thanks, Mayor, council members, and staff. We appreciate the opportunity to come today and present to you this item that's on your agenda. Oh, thank you. And just to give you a brief update on the project, project is before you tonight for your council action is related to easements for this pipeline rehabilitation project that we have titled WFR2, WFR3, WF15, X1A2. A lot of people in our department call it the alphabet soup project, but not sure exactly why, because it doesn't have all the alphabet letters in it, but we got close. It's part of our central region wastewater system, which you are a customer city of that system, and it's located in the West Fork interceptor area, which is, if you can see the pointer here, it's approximately in that area. This particular pipeline will serve both the city of Bedford, Euless, and the city of Fort Worth, conveying wastewater to our central region wastewater system. The specific project is located between West Pipeline Road and Highway 10, and it continues on past Highway 10 down to past Trinity Boulevard and just below Trinity Boulevard. This is why it has so many names to it, because there are several different sections of the pipeline project. The easements that we're requesting from the city are only associated with certain areas where the city of Euless owns property. A little bit about the project description. It's about 16,750 feet in length. It's a rehabilitation, what we call rehabilitation. We're trying to rehabilitate or improve the pipeline in its current location. And so we'll use several different types of construction, one of them called trenchless technology, and then about 8% of it will be open cut. The majority of it is trenchless technology. And the trenchless methods that we're going to be using will probably 83% of it will be what we call cured in place pipe, and 17% of it pipe bursting. Those are two specific methods of types of trenchless methods that we use. I want to show you a little bit of description of what a cured in place pipeline is. It's basically a sock that's impregnated with a resin that you insert inside the pipe, and you expand it to the outer edges of that pipe using hot water or steam, which fixes the process or thermal setting process of the resin, and it cures. Once that pipeline is cured in the lower right-hand corner, that's what it looks like. It's kind of a white-looking sock that's felt. It has some felt on the interior layers, and then that felt is what holds the resin until it is thermosetting.
How much does it reduce the diameter of the pipe?
A few inches. It depends on the size of the pipe that you're putting the sock in. The larger the pipe, the larger the diameter or the width of the sock or the depth of the sock. The smaller the diameter, the smaller the sock. But you might lose, in this size pipe, you might lose an inch on either side, so maybe a total of 2 inches max. Some of the larger diameters, you might lose more than that.
And how big is that pipe now?
It's a combination of different sizes, 27, 30 inch, 18. There's
So we're not
different
looking at a
sizes
significant
throughout.
reduction. Not looking at a significant reduction.
Not a significant reduction. And in this case, because we initially evaluated the capacity of the system and determined whether or not we could even do this, because if we were not able to do this, then we would have to build a whole new pipeline. But in this case, because we didn't need the additional capacity, we could sufficiently do a rehab.
Your friction loss is less with this as well.
Oh, they're
That
right.
is correct. The existing pipe, if it's concrete pipe, it's very rough.
Right.
So the rough, what they call the roughness coefficient, water is, and again, concrete pipe is friction, and you have friction loss along the pipe. In this case, the friction loss is minimized because you have a very smooth, almost a slick surface that the wastewater will travel down, so you actually get a little higher capacity based on hydraulic flow.
Okay.
One of the things you do is you go in and do a closed circuit TV visual inspection of the pipeline to find out if there's any structural issues, problems with it before you actually do the installation, and you clean the pipe before you put the sock in. This is some of the equipment that you might see if you drive by the construction site. You might see in the upper left-hand corner a rod machine that cleans the pipe, and then the The picture on the right shows a truck, a typical truck, where the sock is loaded into, and it's put in that truck, delivered to the site, you impregnate it with the resin, and then you pull it or insert it in the pipeline before you put a steam into it. These two pictures, it's kind of hard to see what these are, but this is a type of pipe bursting, what we call pipe bursting. You basically pull a hammerhead type machine into the pipe, into the existing pipe, and it hammers or basically bursts that pipe, and then behind it, it's pulling in behind it a new pipe to replace the existing pipe, and it's usually an HDPE, which is a high density polyethylene type pipe that then is not a capacity issue. It's a little thicker than a sock, but still it's slick because it's plastic instead of concrete. The project right now, the actual design was completed in September of 2013. We've been in the process of acquiring all the easements necessary to build the project from all of the interested property owners. We anticipate awarding a construction contract in August of 2014 this year, and construction starting approximately in October with a little over a year for construction, and hopefully be completed with construction in December 2015. The estimated construction project is approximately $6 million plus or minus without bids. We don't know what the exact price is yet. And that kind of concludes the item that's on your agenda for approval tonight as far as easements concerned. I brought some pictures of a couple of other projects that are currently either partially under construction or partially still in the final design stage, or in some cases almost finished. And so I wanted to give just a brief update of this. This is the one that we call West Fork 10 and West Fork 13. It's still a part of our West Fork Relief Intersection project. We split the project into two phases for reasons dealing with the expansion of Highway 183. Highway 183, or I believe it's called North Tarrant Express, was really getting started, and we have a pipeline that goes underneath the expressway, and we needed to get it lowered and moved out of the way of the future construction of the roadway. So we broke it into two phases, and actually were able to enter into a contract with Blue Bonnet Contractors for them to actually make the improvements that's shown here as phase 2, which is approximately 98% complete. They're actually probably a little further along than that. They're doing punch list items right now, trying to close out the contract. But it basically was the construction of the meter station, 15OW, located on the north side of the freeway, and then a short run of pipe to get underneath and out of the way of the highway construction. And then phase 1, which is in final design, is 95% complete. We're reviewing plans and specifications now. We hope to go to advertising for bids later this year, maybe as soon as August, and then go into construction that second portion of the project. Then this shows a little bit of West Fork 6 and 14, which has been in construction for quite some time now. Construction probably 70% complete. It starts north of Trinity Boulevard and goes south to connect to our main West Fork interceptor. Estimated completion in December of 2014. So if you have any questions about any of these projects, I'll be happy to try to answer them at this time.
On that first project that takes a year, what happens to the wastewater during all that construction?
We commonly have a process called bypass pumping, and we'll pick up the flow in an upstream manhole and run it downstream and put it back into a manhole. The way you can do cured in place, you can do sections at a time and then connect the two together, which is very convenient and allows you to do the bypass pumping with the live flow that's coming through the system and continue to operate and maintain the system.
Good.
And you'll do it the same way with the pipe bursting as well.
Yes.
On the phase 1, the previous slide, I know we've been working on that project for 4, maybe 5 years.
Longer than I would like to admit. Yes.
Yes, and I have a lot of people that live there that have been impacted over the years at different times. I really would like to, I would like to see that project completed before phase 2 is completed. And I know why phase 2 had to be completed first, but it will be nice when that project is completed. So that's you're increasing that threefold, I believe, in size.
No, probably not
6 inch,
threefold.
you're going to 18.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's some sections that will be larger than that. As you get downstream, they'll go larger than the 18.
Okay. We have had some instances of residents in there having some backflow issues, and Ron has done a really good job with his staff to help with some backflow prevention, but you and I both know where the ultimate culprit is with that, so we're glad when that's done.
Oh, we hope that, well, trust me, this will relieve that problem. Otherwise, we wouldn't have told all this.
Well,
trouble.
thank you. I know the residents in there will be really happy when that's done.
Right.
Mr. Tompkins, that's your neighborhood, that's basically west of East West.
Yes,
Is that correct?
yeah, just do the.
Any other questions for Bill? Bill, my wife has said to me in the past, your socks are so dirty they look like they've been impregnated with resin. I can now go back and report her that they're in situ farm socks now, so you really give me a good excuse. I appreciate that explanation.
Well, just don't give her my phone number
I'm
then.
gonna give her money. It's just the way it works. So, any questions for Bill? That's on the agenda, the item on the agenda is simply to grant the mayor the authority to convey the easement. We recommend approval. Is there any need for Bill to stick around so you know where they are? And this is just kind of routine business for us. So he'd probably like to go home, would stay if he needed.
Well, my wife has plans for her, but I told her that they may change.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
All right, Mr. Adam, now if we can go back up to top, we'll talk about the Tarrant County CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, home requalification.
Don't have any slides for this. You may recall about every 3 years, Tarrant County has to go through the process with the federal government to be requalified for the CDBG home, and there's actually a third that is called the Emergency Solutions Grant. And as part of going through that requalification, they reach out to all the cities in the county, and we have to, there's a decision point for us to determine whether we want to be part of the countywide consortium or to go alone on our own. There are 29 cities in that consortium, including 4 entitlement cities, of which Euless is one, and that has to do with our population. The other 3 are Grapevine, North Richland Hills, and Mansfield. So what we would intend to do at your next meeting is bring forward a resolution and a joint administrative agreement in which the council would authorize the city to, again, participate through the county in the CDBG and home programs. Again, because we're an entitlement city, our funding is slightly different, but it does come through the county, and then what this does is the county administers it on our behalf. You will recall that we still bring the projects before the council, and you approve the projects. We do that during a public hearing, and then we give them to the county. But then the county actually bids the project. It comes back to us, and we get to, we actually pass a resolution supporting the award of the bid. But when it really comes down to it, the contract is between the engineer who designs it in the county and the construction company who constructs the project in the county. So they administer it on our behalf. Now, house guys, typically these are, we've done water and sewer projects over the years. Most recently, we've been doing CDBG funds towards ADA improvements. House department really works hand in glove with the county as far as administrating that and being out there. But just remember that technically goes through the county. And this is that decision point. It would be good for 3 years, FY15 through FY17.
The word entitlement at times kind of has a bad connotation to it. Just a brief explanation on that. For the smaller cities within Tarrant County, they compete for a pool of funds. And there's a point structure that establishes how those selections are made. Once you reach a think it's 50,000 population, you become what is HUD, Housing Urban Development qualification, but in Highland City, we have a set amount that is set aside for us. We don't compete with any other city in Tarrant County. As Chris said, that's what Orange Ford, Northern Hill, Mansfield, great. And so that's, when you hear that entitlement, it's not that we have some special designation that we've asked for. That is just the HUD regulations, the way they work.
Gary, I think the rate line has a population of 50,000.
I don't know. I think they're in the town city. I would have thought it was in the upper 40s, but I don't. And it may be that they reached that through the college estimate before the census. I'm not sure. Those are the cities. Any questions on that? It's a very complicated process. It's not something that we want to do ourselves. It would cost us more to do it than what the savings would be to have Tarrant County to do that entire plan. Okay. Mr. Landry, you want to give us some code update? While he's getting that, I might tell you, our effort tonight was this looks like a relatively long list of topics. Our effort is to keep it relatively short, keep our report short. The agenda is rather short, so we can do the closed session items and then sit down and review. That's
Good evening. I'm back from the long sabbatical, I guess. In the school for too long. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about junk vehicles tonight and how we, both in code and the police department, work together to combat this public nuisance. And I just got very few slides, more information than slides, but our city ordinance deals with it and calls it a public nuisance declared. Why do we deal with junk vehicles? Well, the reasons up there, because if you just boil all those down to what we call in police department, it's kind of like the broken windows theory. If you allow things to get out of hand, things to look run down, then it invites crime, it invites lots of other things. It creates fire hazards, it's detrimental to the economic welfare of the people that live there, the neighbors, so on and so forth. And the way the ordinance breaks down the vehicles, and I want you to understand the process and the process that we have to go through in order to get a vehicle removed from a person's private property. The ordinance defines different things. If it's just a wrecked vehicle, everybody gets in a wreck, they tow their vehicle home while they're trying to figure out what they need to do with it. There's a certain amount of leeway that we give them from that standpoint. It's just a wrecked car. But if it becomes a public nuisance where it's sitting there and grass starts growing up in between the tires and things like that, it changes what that vehicle is classified as. Or a dismantled car. Let's say they're building a car and the engine's out of it. It's obviously not operable, but tires are missing or whatever. You see a variety of these throughout the neighborhood as the code guys are driving around. Inoperable, obviously, is not. It's not usable. You can tell by that vehicle where it's sunk into the dirt. It hasn't been moved in months. And this one's already gone through the process and has been removed from that property. An antique auto, we get lots of information about this, or lots of questions about this, are you allowed to have an antique auto? Yes, you are. It's got to be, the way that the ordinance classifies it, it's got to be over 35 years old. If it's over 35 years and it's inoperable, doesn't mean that it can't become a junk vehicle, but there's certain things that you can do as an antique auto owner to keep it from being taken away from you through the junk vehicle process. Obviously, you can screen it from public right of way. It can't be seen from neighbor's house. It can't be seen from the public roadways. That means it has to be inside a building or inside the garage or within a fenced-in area that can't be seen by anyone around. And then you got cars that are just completely discarded, left on the side of the road, or vehicles that are break down for whatever reason, and instead of taking care of it and getting rid of it, they just park it in the driveway, and we have to deal with it at some point. So these are the different types of vehicles that we deal with. Our ordinance also deals with aircraft, so if the airport ever quits inspecting and registering their planes, we're gonna go pull them off. No. But it does deal with aircraft, it does deal with watercraft as well. The boats have to have registration up to date, both on the boat and on the trailer.
On this, a discard, let's say that's in front of somebody else's house and they just left it there. Do you have to go through the process of waiting 10 days or whatever if it's on somebody else's if it's in front of my house and that's in my
If it's
front
on the
yard?
public roadway, that's what the ordinance tells us we have to do.
Well, he's involved.
He's
He's on the public road, right? He's on the
public
sidewalk, he's on the grass.
He's on the public right of way.
So
Now-
I would have to have him, I
We
would have to
could-
let him sit there for 10 days.
No, we would come to you as a homeowner and say, you can have it removed, taken off of your property if it doesn't belong to you.
Okay.
Same thing with your store, your shopping center. There's a car that's left in your parking lot, and we come to you and say, this junk vehicle's been sitting here for, most of the time we get voluntary compliance,
Right.
where the business owner's like, yeah, I want to get rid of it. You, as the business owner, or the property owner, call and have the vehicle removed.
Maybe I did not understand what you said. That's not sitting on private property.
No, it's on the public right of way.
So how long does it take to do
It's
that?
a 10-day period that we have to file for that, a 10-day period. It's different on public versus private. We can get rid of it in a 10-day period. However, I know where you're going. There's a 24-hour parking violation that totally deals with it a different way. And we can tow the vehicle within 24 hours if it hasn't moved. We would come out, we chalk the tires, we,
You don't have to wait 10 days on that car.
from the junk vehicle ordinance, it's dealt with in two different places. It's dealt with from a parking problem. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
So our first deal is we go to the residents, and I think that's all the pictures. But we go to the residents and we try to get voluntary compliance. We explain to them the ordinance, explain to them what's going on, why the vehicle's in violation. We try to get voluntary compliance for them to remove it. While we're getting that voluntary compliance, we start the process, and it is a 30-day process that it takes to get a vehicle removed from private property. So we fill out the paperwork, we turn it in, and then our code guys continue to check on that vehicle, and we have time increments that we check on. We have to send notices to them. And we got to send not only notices to the property owner, we got to send notices to the registered owner of the vehicle. And we got to send both of those notices to them, wait for those returns to come back. And then at the end of that 30 days, we can file an order with the court, and we go before the court, our municipal court, with the order to get that vehicle demolished. And we can take that vehicle, once we file that order with the court, then we have to go back and verify that it's still in violation and contact the homeowner or the resident, the property owner. We don't have to necessarily contact the registered owner of the vehicle, it has to be the property owner. Serve them with that notice, explain to them what we're doing. And then that vehicle has to be taken directly from that site to the crusher. We have a contract with a certain company that comes out, picks those up, takes them, and they have to demolish them. It can't be used for it can't be used as a motor vehicle any longer once that order is signed. So it's taken straight from there to the crusher. So it's a long process, but it's a process set in place so that we don't take someone's prime vehicle or an antique auto or something by mistake and crush it, because that's exactly what happens to it whenever it leaves our hands. We give an order to them to tell them to take it and crush it.
How many times does that happen where we've actually crushed it?
This year, we have actually taken all the way to the court process 61 vehicles across the city. And then our code guys do everything up to the point where it goes to the process of towing the vehicle off and having it demolished. And then the police officers come in, and they're the actual people that actually serve the order and tow the vehicle from that. And we have to document everything where it's parked, condition, like pictures, and complete a report, and then it's taken off. And then we have to report that information back to the state within 5 days of the time that we take the vehicle.
Is it fair to say that by the time you get down to actually towing it away to crush it, that there's just no objection, they don't care anymore or something.
Correct. Most of the time when you go and contact people, they're like, okay, yeah, I'll take care of it. And we give them time to do it right there and tell them it's somewhere else, pushing it in the garage or whatever. We still give them that opportunity at that point in time. We want voluntary compliance at the utmost. But a lot of times it takes an order holding in your hand saying, I'm fixing to take this car and get rid of it, and to really understand what we're doing. And that's after all of that notifications that we do on this. That's all I got.
Questions on that? Very good. Mr. Collins, you're going to walk us through a proposed development. And what we're really kind of looking for tonight is whether you generally might be supportive of such a development at this location so we can report back to the developer. I'm sorry, this time.
You wanna go with-
thing? Ash Lane Apartments is a totally,
Okay.
I had a mental lapse. That's the next item. Ash Lane Apartments is a pre-development of an apartment.
The Ash Lane Apartments are located at the northeast corner of Fullerweiser and Ash Lane. They were built about 18 or 19 years ago, utilizing federal tax credits that enabled them to do some tax-free bond financing. Yeah, they've got a component of Section 8 housing within there. So, like I said, 18, 19 years later, they have worked with the code compliance staff through the apartment inspection program, and they've been very, very cooperative. In fact, they've been very, very complimentary of the program. They are acknowledging that the condition of the property is now such that in order for them to maintain the quality that they're looking for, it needs a rehab. So they have made application to Tarrant County for federal tax credits. They have gone before the Tarrant County Commissioners Court in order to get authorization for tax-free bonds to be sold that would enable some $4.5 million rehab project on these apartments. As the local government, governing body rather, of the jurisdiction in which this apartment is being located, you will be asked to consider a resolution. And in that resolution, you will be asked if you've got any objections to the overall project. And in the adoption of that resolution, that will accompany their total packet back to Tarrant County and ultimately to the state of Texas through the Department of Housing and Community Affairs. They are currently a Tier 2 property, and like I said, they've been very, very cooperative, and it is in need of a facelift. And I should say a facelift. This will go beyond the cosmetic. They are going to do major repairs as necessary, both on the exterior and the interior, with the objective to make the investment necessary so it can operate another 20 years.
Now, I would guess for most people that wasn't aware that that was Section 8 housing, when you drive by, that's right on the corner of Fullerweiser and East Ash, you would never know that that's Section 8 housing. So it is not really been a problem for us. And this, what level of investment are we making?
$4.5 million.
So it is a pretty major facelift. The resolution that will be on your next agenda will be basically finding that you have no objection. It's not do you object to Section 8 housing, it is do you object to the remodel and the use of county housing to do that. So
And there's
it's
obviously
pretty
no,
major.
I'm sorry, there's obviously no financial obligation on the part of the city.
Is the whole complex Section 8?
They've got to set aside a certain percentage for low mod income. I don't know specifically what that number is, but it's a percentage of what.
And what will they do with the people who are living in units that they have to rehab? Will they rotate? How will they?
I'm assuming, I didn't get into that level of detail. We can certainly find out how they would administer that.
Just curious.
Mr. Ford,
As one who drives by that apartment complex quite often, I have to say that it has been a good complex. As you say, I don't think anyone would ever dream that that was Section 8 housing. And it's not the kind of place we normally think of as Detroit or whatever. But it's, I'm pleased that they're anxious to keep it up.
Yeah, that's the key for all of that out there is to keep rehabbing it. And, it needs fixed, but I'm glad to hear you say that, because that was what I honestly believe most people would never know it. And that's been that way since it was new.
Yeah.
We've had employees, several employees.
I've had employees from when I used to manage law, they lived there.
Mike, do y'all have a problem out there?
No.
Typical. Okay, so that'll be on your next agenda, and it sounds like if we'd be happy to get the ownership or the management here to answer any detailed questions of that, but ours is just working through the next resolution.
That's not necessary.
Through the county,
So we'll probably see additional conflicts like this, go through the same process.
Well, I don't, to my knowledge, that's the only one out in the village of Bear Creek.
That would qualify.
We've got, is there another one? I'm frowning.
In order to get money there.
No, not in Bear Creek. I think they're like right.
The other one that we have, that we brag on all the time, is Spring Valley Apartments on South Main. And they have undergone a number of renovations through the years, and it is, a lot of that is Section 8 as well. So it's not necessarily the sport that we're pointing out, the Detroit tenement situations.
So that's how they qualify. because
West Edge, yeah. Yeah.
Oftentimes they have, they're under greater scrutiny because they're going in there.
I drive by every day.
So that will be on your next agenda for the second meeting in June. And now, the proposed development that I'll give you a preview of also.
In fact, the other Section 8 is the apartment complex located immediately to the east of this proposed site, and we're trying to remember the name. Aspen Oaks. Aspen Oaks. Yes, it is. There is an entity by the name of Meridian. They are operators of skilled nursing, memory care, Alzheimer's, and several other like facilities throughout the state of Texas. They recently completed a project at Bryant Urban in Southwest Fort Worth, Bee Caves down in the Austin area. They are developers of these facilities, and for those that remember when we went through the senior housing development proposal on Dickey Drive, these folks also hold on to them and manage them long term. They are not developers that simply flip them and go down the road. What this graphic would depict is the lighter shade would depict the drive and the parking. The darker yellow shade would depict the actual footprint of what they would propose to be a 155-bed skilled nursing facility. That would be very comparable in size to the Legends skilled nursing that is located there on West Park. I've got some pictures of their interior and exterior to give you an indication of the quality that they would propose. But first, what we wanted to show you was a quick graphic that this is a topo, and I've driven by there for 14 years and never realized just what challenges are associated with the development of that property. And kind of reinforcing the challenges associated with that, we've seen a little bit of restaurant retail development on 157. This site is always evaluated. But as you can see from the left bottom towards the middle area where the figure 602 is, there's basically a 30-foot drop from that highest point to the 570 at the northeast corner of the site. and it's rocky. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Mike, but my eyes are not good enough. I don't know what streets we're talking about. I don't know where this is.
Okay, I'm sorry. We've got 157 on the west, Lake Shore Drive there on the south, and bordered on the north by Ash Lane. So it's a steep property with some significant drop, and what fronts onto 157 is hard rock and wooded area that in that layout towards the 157 frontage is really, really designed to try to preserve as much of that natural topography as they can and kind of tuck it in as best they can into that area. View as you're looking to the north towards Ash. Another view of the area, obviously when you get out of the wooded area. If you were to go into the wooded area, this is kind of the density of the mixed woods that you would see within there.
Tell you, Mike, that's one of the areas that we do the Texas trash off and citizens police, and we always clean that part. And we were talking about this last year when we were doing it, how everybody was asking me, well, why, you know, they're doing all the rest of this development, because you can't do enough grading with, I don't even know how you would do it and engineer it with drainage and everything else to get that portion of it and develop it.
Unfortunately, that's northern, or the part of 157 north of the quick trip, on the northern, for the most part, that's what you've got. It's
Yeah.
steep.
Yeah. Yeah, all area.
That's why it's still,
Yeah.
View from that highest point as you're looking back to the south on Lake Shore. And as you remember from the site layout, the ingress egress will be off of Ash and from Lake Shore, and shifting those points of ingress egress as far away from 157, so there won't be any potential traffic conflicts with the queuing as people are turning in there. So what would it look like? This is a rendition of what they would propose to submit. This is a skilled nursing, is not a permitted use by right. They will be submitting a site plan and a specific use permit that y'all would consider in granting them the entitlement to develop the skilled nursing facility.
I'm sorry, Mike, what is the term you just used, specific use by right?
It is not a permitted use by right. It instead requires a specific use permit. This is a shot of the interior, which actually these are artist rendition, computer generated. They are not actual photos, but it's remarkable, the clarity. And they would tell you that this will be private pay, Medicare. They will market to Harris Methodist Hospital as well as to Grapevine Baylor. State-of-the-art physical therapy. It would be licensed for at 147 beds. They will operate probably 25, 30 of those as private pay only. We asked Wes about the calls for service at Legends, and I think over the course of a year, you were saying 40, 45 calls
Yes.
is what you typically average?
To that location, yes, sir. And that doesn't include transfers though, right, Chief?
No, it does not. It's just emergency response calls.
so this is just simply a land use question. They come to us, where that process works, they come to us, the staff, they pitch it, is it something that could possibly be considered? We work with them to kind of establish a general layout, but before they go and invest lots of money in planning, then we come to y'all, and we say, is this something that we would have an interest in? And then give them some response informally, and they go forward from there. It's a very expensive process to engineer something like this. We had considerable discussion about this at the staff level. That is every community has to have nursing facilities. Is it glamorous? No. Is it? But it is. There's a need for it.
And you're not going to get, other than an apartment you're not getting anything else on that land. You're not gonna get something that's gonna border 157, because you simply can't get the land right.
We could put apartments or townhomes on
Yeah.
there quickly,
Yeah.
and that's no problem.
I think that'd be better use.
Sir,
I think that'd be better use.
apartments or townhomes?
Yeah.
So that's what, we typically push them away.
How
Yeah.
is that zoned?
C2,
Okay.
C2 commercial.
Of course, that is a commercial use, but it
Yeah.
just, in our development codes, it requires the SUP. Where townhomes and apartments are not allowed, it would take a plan development or a categorical zone check. On C2.
Personally, I'd rather see this than townhome and apartment.
I would,
I'm just concerned about the property value, would not that affect property value? Would that
Well,
not be-
you no more than an apartment would.
Yeah, but with apartments, you don't have, I mean, there's so many other things go along with that, situation associated with, you know, a facility like this. I mean, I agree. Well, all the transfers, the amount of traffic in and out.
You know,
that would
44
be-
a year, that's 1 a week. I mean, it's not even.
That's emergencies. I'm
Yeah.
talking about transfers. You get transferred 2 or 3 times a day.
but that wouldn't be as much as an apartment
Yeah.
complex would create traffic.
Yeah, I mean,
We all have opinions, that's just my opinion.
Okay.
Well, it's, I mean, to be clear, our fire department does not do transfers.
No, they don't.
That is done by private ambulance or vans or however you get there. And there is a certain amount of in and out of that. One of my concerns was the amount of emergency calls because of the sirens and just the load on the fire department. But that's why we wanted to check Legends, because that's been there for a number of years. I don't,
Is this operator a quality group?
from what Mike has been able to investigate, yes. It's not you can often tell that by the quality of the construction. And if you're familiar with bee caves outside of Austin, I mean, that is a upper end community. Austin stone, not cheap construction. And the other key is that they own it and hold it. So many places build these things and then flip them, and you don't know what you're going to get in it.
Well, one thing that comes to my mind is that the city of Euless really needs an upscale quality facility like this. Most of the people from Euless who need that kind of care and they want it upscale, they go to a different community to be housed.
And that's, you know, we've visited with y'all before on our trips to the Colleyville and South Lake memory care facilities, and they're extremely expensive, extremely high quality, and they're both solid. So is there a need? Yes, we believe there is a need. And I can tell you, and Mike could certainly, Mike Brown could certainly offer his opinion, but there used to be a nursing home on Clinic Drive that we've been there for years and years. I don't, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but aside from the little old man wandering into the little old woman's room at night and us going up there to get him out of the room or something, and then the calls on heart attacks and whatnot, I don't think it's been a drain on our resources. Of course, that's no longer there. I don't think the one on West Park is. What it does to property values, I don't know. We don't have any information, but we could certainly develop some. I don't live with a stone throw in there, and drive by there nearly every day of the week. As a resident up there, I would tell you my preference would be this to an apartment. And I understand everyone's entitled to their opinion, but you know, I'm kind of taking that hat off and my city manager hat off as a resident.
And I respect that totally. You know, anytime I'm sitting here, I'm never, you know, etched in stone. I mean, you know, I respect Mr. Collins' opinion, I respect your opinion. You know, the work that I've done, I know facilities like this. And if it is upscale, like the one that's at the corner of I guess it's Bedford Road 183, that facility. They have a chef there. And it's been there, I guess, for maybe 5 years now. It's a very good facility. And, you know, I've been in the Legend facility with my mother both times. There's a vast difference between the Legends facility and that facility right there in Bedford. I mean, it's night and day. If it was something like that, I could support that.
Mike, where is their nearest facility? They have one on Metroplex, I guess. That's what it was.
Southwest, Fort Worth, yeah, that's a memory care facility. This one would be skilled nursing. I think the closest skilled nursing is the one in BK that they've most recently opened.
It certainly is, I mean, if any of you want to go by even though it is memory care, in Hollywood, they have both, the memory care and the.
I'll bet you they have the website that we can pull up.
Yeah, you can look at that, but it's, I mean, we believe it's a quality facility, but bear in mind, we're offering you opinions.
Yeah.
They tell us they're gonna own it and operate it, but there is nothing to keep them from doing it. There's nothing. You can try to tie them down on that SUV, but they're not gonna let you tie them down too much, because they're not gonna be able to get lending. We will explore it all we need to for you to help y'all make a good decision. And that's the reason we wanted to introduce it to you early, because rather than just have an SUV on your agenda.
If it's anything even close to the construction depicted here, I mean, it would do nothing but improve property values.
I would much rather see that than I would townhomes or apartments.
So this is, I'm having trouble with, this is intended to be one story.
It's single story.
So to fit on that site, there's going to be a retaining wall that's 20 feet tall around the back side at some point to, or however tall that needs to be, that you're not seeing depicted on that drawing, correct?
Exactly. So on the 157 side and along Lake Shore and coming east on Ash, there will be retaining walls.
So while you're on this slide, are we talking about the purchase of the whole property? Is there any potential of putting commercial on the three corners, 5 years, 10 years down the line?
You couldn't do the grading. You couldn't flatten that out and still have drainage and put something there.
And part of how this is being priced by the seller is acknowledging that, similar to a portion of it being in the floodplain, they recognize that this isn't fully developable because of the topo.
Sometimes you see those corners left out for exactly what you're talking about. In this case, they've left out the worst of the elevation change and to provide some screening. And I think they maintain most of to the extent they can, most of the trees.
Yes, sir. That's the idea.
But they would be required to keep the trash.
Yeah.
It would be an improvement for that overall. This is not something that we feel real strongly about. I mean, we felt like it rose to the level of being worth bringing into y'all's attention to get your input. But and the question we often ask ourselves, if not this, what? And that's kind of, if you're okay with townhomes and apartments, again, that is relatively easy. But we have kind of the marching orders we've been working on is no more apartments or townhomes unless there is a really good reason why.
I guess one reason I say that, Gary, is because there are apartments on both sides of that. You know, I know there's the R1L there that is kind of northeast of that. I see that too. I guess I was just trying to associate that with the other two apartment complexes. And there are residential that are just due south of that. I have a lot of friends that live in that neighborhood too. And, you know, I just don't think they would be too happy to have that in their backyard. I mean, I may be totally all the way on that conversation.
Well, I don't want to put one of them on the spot, but we happen to have one who backs up to that.
Yeah, no, but there's 2 streets over.
As a representative, I mean, feel free to say whatever you want to say.
My comfort level with a senior home would be much higher than it would be with an apartment complex. I would think in general, a lot less noise, a lot less traffic.
Mike, how long has this company been in business? Are they long established?
Yes, ma'am. I couldn't tell off the top of my head how many years, but all of that level of, in fact, we can put together that level of detail in a response back to Mr. McCamey, and he can provide it.
I guess I'm thinking in terms of, do they have a history of flipping anything? No.
But, you know, even if they do flip it, the building's still gonna be the building. The structure's still gonna be the structure. I'd rather see a 1-story of that than a 3-story apartment. And if you get 147 apartment unit sitting there, you're gonna have 147, minimum 147 cars a day going in and out of that thing. Versus most people that are living there, they're not driving anymore. And so the only traffic you're gonna have is doctors and people that work there, and, you know, a few visitors.
Not when you look at all their loved ones have been in country traffic,
yeah.
they do.
That's probably not happening all that much, but if I were living right over there across West Ashland, first off, I'd be making a lot more money than I am now, but I'd much rather have the senior housing sitting there across the street from me than a 3-story apartment complex, especially as we've seen certain apartment complexes go downhill. And they will be flipped. Statistically, your apartment complex will be flipped after 3 years, then again after 5 more years, and then by the next time you flip them again, then you really got trouble.
Well, I've never lived in apartments, I've never, thank the Lord, I've never lived into a skilled nursing facility, but I've worked in a lot of skilled nursing facilities.
Well, I'll come visit.
Will you? Will you? Okay.
You're only once a day.
How many times a day? How
I'll
many
put
times a
older
day?
than him, so I'm
Okay, what I'm hearing is that there is some willingness to see this go forward. It's not certainly taking a vote, nor is it unanimous, but there is some willingness that we can convey to the public. I hear that the construction methods, the quality of construction is key, because you cannot guarantee that.
And the operator.
And the operator, to check out the operator, how much time they've been doing this mine. But we all understand that there's no guarantees that they will not sell it or be taken over or whatever, but, that's, because this would be an SUP, there's advertisement that goes around, notification that goes out to that radius of people, which I think is important. So, my question, should we bring another report to the next meeting, or is they?
Absolutely. With the schedule that they would follow to submit, that'll be in July, so yes.
Yeah, the good part about this is it allows Mike to go back and say, there's not full buy-in to this.
Oh, don't get me wrong.
No, we use this to our advantage.
Yeah.
The construction methods, the operator is critical, so oftentimes that allows us to get enhanced features and develop standards because they will, if they want to do the project, they hear that, and they need to do it. Where maybe they were going to put some Austin stone on it, and that depicted looked like probably part Austin stone, but stucco or brick, but we can enhance that. So let him work with them and see if we can't bring you another report at the next meeting. Fair enough. Ms. Jewell, you have a little financial update.
Number here. We've received our short-term motor vehicle rental tax for the month of April, and as I notified you in December, that was our highest ever month collection. Turns out that April was our second highest ever. It was 12% higher than last April. So I'm not sure what was going on. I was trying to think of what was happening in the Metroplex, but that's wonderful news. It's up 12% from last year at the same month, and that brings our year-to-date up 3.5%. So it's a really good number.
That's good. We did not get sales tax.
No, it's on Wednesdays.
Okay. All right. Any questions for her on that or any other financial topic? If not, Mr. Trainer, you got a water update. It's rained and rained.
It rained and it actually raised the lakes around 0.5%, which was good. River Chambers at 73.8 today, and a year ago it was 76.7. Well, Cedar Creek is 84.5 and actually was 82.5 a year ago. So for some reason Cedar Creek is filling, it's getting more runoff. But the Fort Worth, the whole total lakes are 71.7% and 75.4 a year ago. So we're about, not quite 4%.
Do you have the numbers on Livingston?
No, sir, I don't, but I can get it for you.
No, that's better.
Well, at least we're closing the gap a little bit.
Close the gap and not losing ground.
Yeah.
We're forecasting more rain on
Because
Thursday.
we were afraid that by the time we hit June and July, we might be in the 60s.
Yeah, we're in much better shape than North Texas Municipal Water District. Like,
Oh, yeah, the McKinney area and all that area.
we're hurting up there.
Yeah.
Some of us were at a meeting this morning, and they talked, there was a water speaker, and they talked about that the Trinity River is completely sustainable. Is that accurate? That everything, that, I mean, the amount that we pull out and the amount that gets flushed back in is equal? Did I hear that correctly?
I think that's, most of the water that is in the Trinity south of Dallas is coming from that flood. And I think that's the correlation she was drawing, is that it is, we're dumping so much into it that is the way it is sustained. It is not through rainfall or runoff, primarily it is through the discharge of the flood. Is what I think. I've joked about this for quite some time. The city of Houston drinks our discharge, and they love it. But we have to be real careful about how we use it up here. But it is the exact same water. The other point that they were making is that this was Tarrant Regional Water District, through the creation of the wetlands around Cedar Creek and Richmond Chambers, that they are cleansing and holding the equivalent of Bridgewater at full capacity, not at its current capacity. So that's a pretty amazing fact. And
So they're considering that storage?
in the wetlands.
Wow.
Effluent water.
Not through pure reservoir.
They're not-
That was what I understood. Okay. Let's see. Before we get board commission, let me skip down to the Texas Star Golf Course renovation update. Just a real quick reminder, y'all are spraying this week.
We sprayed today.
That will be the initial kill off of the Bermuda.
But didn't you spray something last week? Because there are areas that are real ground. It's the stuff that wasn't bent. There's something other than, when I played this weekend, that there's major areas of ground already there. But they're not bent grass. It's like where the poana was and some of the chickweed and the other stuff that was in there.
It just, some of that just died off, especially on 3, where you had some that
Yeah,
just-
3 is very ground.
Good. That spraying is going on now. We will close after Sunday, and we'll remain closed and reopen October 1st. Just remind everybody that there'll be a lot of activity going on out there. We've got some grading work that we're doing. We've got all this stuff that Scott's doing, the rehabbing and lining the ponds on 15, 16, and 17. So a lot of activity will be going on out there. And when we reopen, all we do, the greens, hope will continue to rain through the summer. And we'll open a new cart fleet, GPS, new operations. Look forward to that. Don't want anybody to forget about that. So with that, Ms. Kim, you want to talk to us about the board and mission forms?
Yes, well, this will.
I'm not doing the motion, I'm just telling you that.
This looks very similar to what you were doing at the last meeting. and also for the TIP. And we can consider others as well. We do have this posted for closed sessions, so if you want to speak about planning and zoning, EDC, taxing, but the rest of it's something that if you want.
Now, the EDC, we probably need to do that during this meeting because of the budget cycle. So, yeah, we could possibly wait, but if there's no good reason to wait, then we can do it next meeting. So, any thoughts on any of those other than the ones that are posted for closed session? All right, so moving forward with that, discuss those in closed session. So, I think we have a capital project. So we could look at our agenda. Education by Mike Moran, two employee service teams. Parker here, 15 years. When is that? Additional. I'm very fast. What's the date?
Well, it's one of those tripped up calculated days.
What's the adjustment?
I think it's June.
Oh, so you okay.
I think I'll make it.
All right. And then, Mr. Pavitt, Lieutenant Wayne Pavitt, 25-year pen. You'll be here for you. Right. Wayne is a really good guy. Don't know him, you know, just fine man. Then item number 2 is something we don't do very often. I'll explain this in more detail in the council meeting there, but we had an anonymous donor that wanted to recognize an employee or a child employee that was a graduating senior that would be going off to college. And what seemed at first like a relatively simple request turned out to be a tough job, because I don't normally think of just the number of employees we have with graduating seniors, children, and then the quality. I know we have really good employees and employee families, but you don't always, unfortunately, we don't always know the children. So we went through a process of selection and application, and presented the initial scholarship, and then the donor was so impressed by the person that was selected to receive the scholarship that they actually wanted to double the amount of the scholarship after the fact. And so Euless Thorpe is the recipient and will be here tonight. A little awkward situation for me in that Euless's mom, Danette, works for us in our office. One of the finest families I've ever known. And Danette is just a wonderful, wonderful mom. Randy, her husband, is a great guy. They, neither one of them make a lot of money, and Randy actually took a second job to prepare to send Euless to school. So I think this is a wonderful thing, and we've never done this in a council meeting, but there was a request that by the donor that we recognize not the donor, because the donor is and shall remain totally anonymous, but the quality of the person that Euless is, and along with the other applicants. I think the hope is that perhaps others will see that we've got some employees and their families that might be worth investing in their education. Euless is going to blend, which actually when you hear about Chris tonight, you'll hear that Chris started at Glenn and junior college, and that's a stepping stone into Texas A&M, and Euless wants to be an accountant pickups. Kyle, anything you want to add to that? Low bid?
Lowest bid, they were not an HVAC bid, this was an oldest bid that we did, and that's $700 cheaper than HVAC, so sometimes you win some on there, sometimes no, so.
That's a good example of something we've been trying to do. It's easy to get into the habit of just using HVAC, Houston, Galveston Area Council, or Board, or any of the other consortiums, but sometimes we need to bid ourselves against those to make sure that they got the best price. So this is an example of that. Say $700 unit, so that's $3,500. One other thing on that I might point out, these were bid with the possibility of utilizing compressed natural gas. The classic Chevrolet, the oil and lube place, they're on 121, has recently put in a CNG fueling station. And we were hopeful that that might work out, but it is about, is it like $9,500?
Yes, sir.
$9,500 per unit more. And there is grant money to provide about a 25% match of that. And, but it just, we did not see that that would money out. Over a number of years it would, but there's some inconvenience. So I don't want you, Kyle does a great job of trying to kind of keep us on the cutting edge of energy conservation, and actually he was pushing for this, but at the end of the day, we just couldn't see spending $50,000 more for just pickups. And we would get back maybe $10,000 of that. So I don't think Kyle is not looking at that, but we look at it every opportunity, but it is an expensive proposition. Item number 4 is award of bid 11-14 for an annual contract for concrete repairs. How anything you need to add to this?
We only had the one bidder, but it's the contractor that we've had in the past, and it's a small company, and they do great work. It worked well with our staff. We were pleased that the one we got that one.
It's for labor only, and I think that's indicative of the construction market right now. Item number 5 is consider extension of contract for request for proposal 12-10. This is for web PBA for third-party administration. You see that list of things that they provided for us. Any questions on that?
They continue to provide us great services. They asked for a 2.8% increase, which is for a 2-year term, and so we felt like that was very reasonable, and so we would recommend approval.
We would have been thrilled to have been able to only see a 2.8% increase on all of our medical related stuff. Item number 6 is resolution 14-1435, requesting financial assistance from the Texas Water Development Board. Mr. Parker, you want to tell us something about that?
This is for our meter change-out program. We've talked about this in the past. There is an opportunity with the Texas Water Development Board for low-interest financing, and this resolution would just authorize the submitting of an application for their assistance. Their process is a little interesting. We've already submitted what they call an intended use, and we made it through their first round of qualifications, and we've been asked to now apply, which is, I guess, code for them saying, if you apply now, you will be successfully granted that. So we have that nod, but we do have to make the actual application. We're working, you may remember you had authorized us to work down one of the subjects on this application. So what this would do is just authorize us to actually file the application. And we would hope to know about that towards the summer, and maybe to have availability of that, those funds that long, right around the first of the year.
It's absolutely not a grant. We're talking about grant funds from the Bureau of Reclamation, and did not get that. That was for a much smaller amount. This is truly a lot. Below market. Questions on that? Item 7 minutes. Item number 8 is the easement that was discussed by Bill Smith and CRA earlier, authorizing the mayor to execute those easements. And then item number 9 is a request by Bose Thomas, and Bose Thomas is the person who submitted the request. They've asked to address the city council regarding Dollar General from the construction of that store at the corner of Deborah and Highway 10. Bose Thomas, along with other of his friends, live in the village of Texas Star. And they have become concerned with the construction of the Dollar General store. Mr. Collins met with them yesterday evening during our work session, and Mike, you want to give them just a flavor of what the discussion was?
Yeah, they had multiple issues. First was with the construction of the Dollar General, the traffic potential that we'd use one of the streets within the subdivision as a cut through, and they had some other concerns with this, the general operations, trash, when deliveries would be made, those types of operational issues that they believed could have impacted. But it was a really much broader discussion. They had issues with trash collection, they had issues with cut-through traffic from the apartments. There were any number of issues that they had questions about, school bus traffic, I mean, any number of things. So all of the issues that they identified last night, we passed on to the appropriate folk, be it Allied Waste or the school district or whatever, to try to respond to them. Their bigger concern, however, is really the traffic-related issue. They are going to want to discuss what options there might be to affect people coming off of Deborah Drive into their neighborhood, up to and including perhaps even the installation of some type of gate. I mean, they really want to address the overall issue of pass-through traffic in their neighborhood.
Because of Dollar General?
I think that they had some bent-up frustration on any number of issues, and with the Dollar General coming on, this was kind of their lightning rod, and they're kind of using this as a vehicle to express their frustration on a number of things.
But the only thing we can actually respond to
Correct.
is anything to do with Dollar General. We can't discuss their trash pickups, et cetera, in this, because all they're requesting is regarding Dollar General construction on State Highway 10.
So we've been responsive to their other questions, but they're specific to the Dollar General. It'll be kind of a cut-through.
So we might want to have Wayne address, before we get into it, have Wayne address the speaker, say, make sure you understand, the council can only talk to you about the Dollar General construction only.
Sorry, I didn't my notes.
Okay. Well, that's why you're paying.
In the Dollar General, they abide by the Texas and all.
Yes, sir, and we explained to them that it was commercially zoned property. They went through the site plan. They believed that out of courtesy, it would have been far better for them to have been notified and been provided notice. And we went through a balance of private property owners' rights that own that commercial zone property and what the site development standards are. And they just believed very strongly that they should have had opportunity to influence that site. We passed on the concerns and questions regarding the site layout, and if y'all remember, for example, we had told you when the initial proposal was made, for example, the dumpster was located on the west side closer to the neighborhood. Well, we knew that that was going to be a concern, so they moved it to the east side. And there was some enhanced landscaping that was put there on Deborah Drive. Well, we suggested to them that perhaps, yes, you've met the minimum standard, but as a good neighbor, would you want to consider kind of beefing that up? So those concerns have been passed on to Dollar General, and I mean, up to and including, what do you do to keep up with your shopping carts? I mean, they're in the loop on what all of the questions were.
And some of the discussions that we'll be having with them comes to it's tied into Dollar General, but going through that neighborhood from Dollar General to the Del Prado apartments, for example, would be a pretty convenient cut down for them. So that, there may really be some concerns, some legitimate concerns there. And we have been tossing around some ideas and shared some with them last night, and the possibility that there may be a way to put a gate on Deborah Drive. There are several examples throughout town of where that has occurred. The gates are just blocking off the street. Had the Village of Texas Star pitched that development to us only with access to Del Prado, and I don't know how they pitched it, because it goes back too many years, but we would have told them they need secondary access, and that's requested the fire department. Well, we can achieve secondary access for emergency access by other ways than a city street. Think about out in Mr. Price's neighborhood in Morrisdale, Pecan, and this goes back to before a lot of y'all's time, but Pecan used to go through into Hurst. And for years, the Morrisdale residents fussed about that, and ultimately we closed that street. I can't remember the name of the neighborhood, but the neighborhood at the northwest corner of East Ash and Fuller Weiser, west of Fuller Weiser and north of East Ash. That was originally built with a street that cut through to Fuller Weiser. And not long after that development went underway and we started getting residents in there, they immediately objected to that street cut. And so it was changed. So there's some others up in y'all's neighborhood, Nutmeg and on that Claremont, or I can't remember the name of the street. But there is a street up there that it was gated, not private street gated, but just a emergency access gate. So if that may be something that could work for these folks. Don't know. Obviously, they're public streets, so it would have to come from some action by the HOA that is willing to do it and willing to pay for it. And from my conversation with at least one resident that's not part of this group that's coming tonight, they're not concerned with it. So I don't know the HOA, nor do we know whether these people are coming as representatives of the HOA or as representatives of themselves, which we'll not really have to see. So there are some things we can offer to them, but at the end of the day, the Dollar General was a permitted use by right, and they got the right to be there. That was a site plan, a site plan. So, any questions or comments on that? But Mr. Spiniford, I think Wayne is exactly right as far as the limitation conversation.
I'll be prepared to address that. It goes too far.
Well, I was thinking before we started, that you would approach that to begin with, saying, make sure you understand that the council can only respond to you about the Dollar General construction only, because that's all it's posted. And that might short circuit some of that.
Any other questions on anything other agenda related or discussion?
I know from a housekeeping perspective, we could not have put that in any type of communication when they built that. And when they approached it to the PD, put in that development, I mean, we've never done it before. I can't recall us ever saying, hey, you know, in the communication, you allow commercials right across the street. I can't recall we've ever done that.
Well,
Just to remind people that they have their properties either across the street from commercial or abutting commercial.
no, the only time I ever recall us doing anything to make some very public disclosure is actually at the Cave Armenian development. To let them know that there's going to be a permanent gas well pad site out there. But other than that, because I mean the difficulty is, I mean, we can do everything we want to do, but ultimately you've got a salesperson representing to a homeowner.
Right.
And then they're disclosing.
It's all good. But it's bad. It'll never develop.
And you know, I'm pathetic to
Oh, me too.
because I think maybe there's been a comment made that the salesman, not the real estate agent, but the new home builder said, you know, there's going to be residential up there. Honestly, there has been discussion to the best of my knowledge, we've had no complaints from that neighborhood whatsoever. Y'all had him try, so I don't, Mike Brown, y'all had any crime issues?
Well, they're part of, our Wilshire South, I mean, that process, I mean, I haven't seen anybody make any posts on that concerning, any concern with crashing in that neighborhood or that. I mean, usually that side is pretty popular with the residents to post.
I don't, and by no means am I trying to diminish their concerns, but we don't know.
That's what Dale did, I mean, he jumped right all over that to cure that other, what is that northern, side of the park, which he took care of, so.
So they're good people with
Yeah.
legitimate, concerns. We'll talk about it, and we may have some solutions. Not building Dollar General is probably not one of them. To the mitigation is kind of key. Okay, then if we could break for dinner, and we will pick back up here a little bit for our closed session. Our dinner tonight has been chosen by Mr. Bryce, Chick-fil-A, and the Rose Grill. So, dinner for serving.
Happy birthday. Tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I remember the first thing
If we know that.
All